Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is an entrepreneur, online business mentor, wellness advocate, lifestyle expert, and certified yoga instructor. Today's guest is Brynn Fabian. Brynn, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely.
I appreciate you having me on here.
For sure. So, Brynn, we're just going to jump right into things. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? And do you have some sort of specific morning routine that you like to stick to on most mornings?
Yes. So one of the things that I've always learned, the most consistent you are, the most successful you are. And so I try to go to bed pretty early every day so I can wake up nice and early after about 8 hours of sleep. First things first, I usually have a cup of coffee after I've fed my cat. She's always crying. And I'm very fortunate that if I don't wake up very early, she always gets me up at usually 5:30.
Right.
So I start my day with coffee. My coffee has some MCT oil, some collagen, hyaluronic acid. It's delicious, and it gives me so much focus and so much energy, which I love. Typically after that, I like to go for a little walk or run or jog, depending on how sore my body is.
Right.
Sometimes I'm like barely getting up. Sometimes I have lots of energy and my body's good and I can go for a couple miles.
Okay, cool. So it kind of starts off with the feeding the cat, right? And then the coffee and then some sort of movement?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then you're a yoga instructor, so then kind of after that, do you kind of have like a class right away on most days, or how does that work?
Yeah, good question.
Okay.
So 2 days a week I actually teach right away. So I'll wake up and I just get to the studio as quickly as possible. I teach the sunrise class, so it's 6 a.m., so I have to be there at 5:30.
Okay.
So I don't typically spend too much time hanging out at my house. I just like to get to the studio, get in the mindset of teaching yoga, and then I'll start my morning routine after I leave the studio.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So let's, I want to, before we kind of go on to the next question, I want to, since we're kind of already there, I want to talk about and touch on yoga. I've had several different people that are like specifically like yoga instructors on my podcast, and then a lot of my previous guests and a lot of the listeners are involved on some level with yoga. So what kind of, Brynn, has yoga done for you personally, and kind of what does that mean to you?
Great question. So originally when I started doing yoga, I loved the fitness benefits. That's why I started doing it. I was an athlete my whole life. Like, I played every sport and I never stretched. So when I first started doing yoga, I was in pain. It was miserable, but I quickly became a lot more flexible. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously received the physical benefits from it. And also noticed I was feeling so much more clarity, so much more peace, way less anxiety. And I just got excited. I was like, I need to get to yoga. This is so fun. And I scheduled my day around it. I was taking class all the time, like even a couple times a week. A couple times a day. I would sometimes take 2 classes. And just, I think, honestly, I needed more of the mental and the emotional benefits, especially in our society. We're so like anxious prone and so busy, and there's so much going on in life. And so I needed that release. And anytime I had a problem, I would walk out and it was like the problem didn't even matter anymore.
Cool. That's beautiful. I know. Yeah, I know, like for me, I've never like stepped into like any type of yoga situation, like a class or
now you have to come to my class.
I know I've
tomorrow
been
6 a.m.
I can't do that. I've been resisting, but I think the overall kind of takeaway from previous guests and talking to people that are kind of involved in yoga, I really do feel like it's kind of that mental side of things that has been the most powerful and impactful for most people. You know what I mean? Because there's, again, kind of like what you referred to, like most of our society is just like so crazy busy. Most of us are so crazy busy, and we don't really ever take time to really check in with ourselves and kind of check in with like our mindset and the thoughts we're having. So I think yoga really provides that slowdown for people, and that again has been something that's seemingly very impactful for most of the people I talk to in regards to yoga. So it's cool that you kind of agree with that and share that aspect of yoga. So the second question, Brynn, that I have for you is, and if there's more than one, feel free to share, but is there a favorite book or book that you like to gift often?
Yeah, so I like a couple different things or a couple books. So because I am an entrepreneur, I focus a lot on sales and business development. Grant Cardone is one of my absolute authors. You're laughing.
I love GC.
Okay.
he's great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, if any of you guys ever go to read his book, don't read it, listen to it, because he translates. What's the word?
How he reads it?
He reads it.
Yeah.
He reads the book.
Yeah, he actually reads his own book, because a lot of times if somebody's like, what are they talking about? A lot of times, or sometimes, if you get somebody's book, it's not the author reading it, it's somebody else. So when you can have the actual author reading their book, there's just a better connection.
Better connection. He has so much more energy and emotion in it, and then he gives little side notes, and he'll be like, oh my gosh, who it is? The producer told him like not to include something, and he still did. And so it feels like you're actually talking to them.
For sure.
Or they're talking to you one-on-one.
Yeah.
No, so I love that.
Yeah. So like he's authored a lot of books. So is it like the 10X rule? Is that kind of the one that?
Yeah, 10X rule was one of my favorites, and then a big life-changing book for me was Be Obsessed or Be Average.
Okay. Yep.
That kind of just hit me so hard. I was like, wow, I need to change my life. I went through a lot of changes after that.
So because I was laughing because I was listening to Grant Cardone, Power Players, one of his older podcasts, this morning. I listened to something of Grant Cardone several times a week. I'm always checking his Instagram stories, because the dude is like, he's just over the top with like energy, passion, fire. He's preaching it, he's living it, he's doing it in regards to like business and real estate and all that. And I love him. And you either, from my kind of like perspective, you either love him or you hate him. But at the end of the day, whether you love him or you hate him, you have to respect him, because he's done stuff and he is positively impacting the world. So like I love Grant Cardone. Now the last book that you mentioned, Be Average or what is it?
Be Average, Be Obsessed or Be Average.
Yeah, that one. I think that's his most recent book, isn't it? Okay, that's what I thought.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, no, GC's awesome. He's got, I don't know, he's been doing podcasts for a long time, and for any of you listeners out there that are like interested in business, sales, if you're interested in being entertained,
or just need some motivation.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Like just get into gear. Like he will light a fire under
you.
you.
He will. Grant Cardone. Yep, he's the real deal. Now, for you personally, Brynn, like you kind of mentioned something about like the sales aspect of things with Grant Cardone, but kind of what's the one thing, and maybe it's that mindset again, but what's kind of that one takeaway that you've taken away from Grant Cardone and kind of what he preaches and practices?
I think the biggest thing would just be working harder than you think you can.
Right.
And just like going all in. He works so hard, and he does not ever have an excuse for anything. And I think a lot of the time, so you mentioned like people either love him or hate him.
Right.
The people that hate him aren't ready for him.
Love it. Yep, that's great.
I like don't. It's not like I'm trying to like say that you can't have an opinion. Like if you don't like something, you don't like something. But
for sure.
But he is so intense, and he will. It's his energy too. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Is like how
beautiful.
I feel after reading it and how much emotion. It's almost like, and I could either have a cup of coffee or I could listen to like his
perfect
podcast.
Yeah, I like that. No, that's good. That's some truth right there. So is there a favorite quote or mantra, Brynn, that you have?
No. So we were talking about this, and I don't have like a specific quote, but I do have one life lesson that my mom always shared with me, and I always remember it. Share, take turns, and get along. And it seems so simple, but at the same time, it's just like, how can we be kinder to other people in our life? Like how can we not be so self-centered in a sense, and share, listen, and take turns, or just get along. Have less hate, have more love.
For sure. Yeah. And that's like a great life lesson, just in regards to like simplicity, because as human beings, we like to most of the time overcomplicate things. We like to just, I don't know, throw our spin on it or our take, and it's like, hey, let's just take a step back and let's keep things simple. And I really think if you look at successful people in any arena of life, they really just keep things simple. So I love that life lesson from your mom. That's beautiful. So the last question that I have for you as a part of the warm-up is, do you have, and you kind of already answered this with Grant Cardone, but maybe there's another one out there too, but a favorite or most listened to podcast?
So I have been recently listening to, I think it's called the Mastermind Academy.
Okay.
It's all about financial well-being and just about the market and news. And I don't watch the news, honestly. I don't think it's always the best source for information. So I've been listening to that, and that's kind of been nice. It just gives me an update for the week of like the most important things that are affecting our like economy.
Perfect.
And there's a couple. I love like Gabrielle Bernstein if I'm doing like meditation.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Tony Robbins obviously has some really great ones.
For sure.
And there was, I think it's called the Smart Couple.
Okay.
Another one for relationships.
Yeah. I've heard of that one, yeah.
There's a ton.
Yeah, no, I know. There's
and to be yours
bunch,
next.
Yeah. Leave a subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and review, okay?
Yes, exactly.
Cool, but yeah, I mean, we could just leave it at Grant Cardone, I think, for the second question with the book and the podcast, because that's he ends it all right there. But cool, so that kind of wraps up the warm up, Brynn, in regards to our podcast conversation. The kind of the direction I want to take things now, and the direction I kind of like to take it after the warm up with all of my guests, is kind of just to get that backstory. So if you don't mind sharing with myself and the listeners, kind of like, where did you grow up? What did those like earlier years look like? You kind of already mentioned like you were really involved in all types of different sports, so maybe just talk a little bit about that. And then we'll kind of move on to kind of like college and your 20s and things like that. But where did you grow up, and kind of what did the earlier years look like for you?
Yeah. So I grew up in a tiny rural town called Randolph, Vermont.
Okay.
I think we have like 7,000 people, so it is tiny.
Yep.
I was very fortunate that my parents did everything they possibly could to, expose us to life in general. And I grew up with 2 older brothers. We were very athletic, so I played soccer, basketball, and lacrosse. And then in the summer, I did basketball camp, summer soccer, AAU, everything I possibly could do to stay active. And those are like some of my fondest memories of like traveling with my like best friends and going to like AAU tournaments and playing in our like soccer leagues and going to like basketball camp and lacrosse camp. Like that was my life. Like I was an athlete. And so I decided to stay in state and go to the University of Vermont.
Okay.
I didn't realize that like something happened in high school that kind of determined what major I was going to be.
Right.
I didn't realize that I had kind of like some body dysmorphia and some body image issues. And so I always knew I wanted to help people. So I wanted to go to school for physical therapy, and then I just was talking to my mom, and she's like, Brynn, I just don't I really don't see you in that career. I see you doing something like more like adventurous, and I can't see you with the geriatrics population.
Right.
And she's so right. Like I think I have a little bit higher energy than that. I'd probably drive them crazy.
Right.
So I decided to stay in the health field and study nutrition, mostly because I didn't know anything about it.
Right.
I had no background, no knowledge. I knew that like you're supposed to eat vegetables, but like that was about it. We used to have the food pyramid where grains were completely on the bottom. Right. And and it was so outdated at this point.
Yeah.
And so basically, ended up having a bunch of extra credits, and I loved exercise and decided to take or do a like unofficial minor my senior year.
Okay.
So I ended up studying exercise science. So I loved that because I was in the gym, I was doing strength and conditioning, personal training, learning even more in depth about anatomy and working out and exercise. And I mean, that's clearly my passion.
Right. Now, I want to, and I think you kind of referred to this, but when I was looking on your website, you kind of have like a little bio or whatever, you said, and I believe this happened, I don't know if it was high school or junior high, but at some point when you were younger, you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you overheard somebody, some girls, I think it was, referring to you, and they said, your stomach or her stomach is bigger than her boobs. Something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what, because in your bio on your website, you had kind of mentioned that when you overheard that, there was something that kind of clicked in your mind, and maybe that's kind of where that body image stuff kind of came in and you started struggling with that. So unpack for myself and the listeners kind of like what that statement, kind of like how it negatively impacted you, but then also I think it probably on some level positively impacted you at some point later down the road because you did get into health, fitness, nutrition, and things like that. So just share a little bit about what those words meant to you at the time and then kind of like what they mean to you now.
Yeah, first, I love what you said at the end about how, it can negatively impact you and also positively impact you, and that's all about perception.
Absolutely.
And I think if I didn't have such a strong backbone and confidence, and I didn't have such great parents like raising me and sharing love to me, like it could have impacted me a lot more negatively than it actually did. And you learn to work through it. But yeah, so basically like one day I was in the locker room. I can't remember what age we were. I think it was like 7th, 8th, or 9th.
Yeah, you were younger.
Younger.
Yeah.
And like, we're going through puberty, and like I'm not a big girl. Like I wasn't growing very very well.
It's okay. Hey, I was a late bloomer. It's all good.
Yeah, let's just say that.
Keep it real,
Yeah, keeping it real.
Yep.
And this girl came up to me and was like, you should be mindful. This girl that you're friends with is talking about you, and was like, she even said like your stomach is bigger than your boobs, and I felt like literally like my stomach just crashed. Like I was just like, oh my God, this is awful.
Yeah.
And I just, from that point, I just felt shitty about myself. Sorry, excuse my
language. Oh, no, you're good. Nope, you can cuss. Don't worry. It's all good.
So I felt awful. I didn't have, didn't have the willpower to create an eating disorder, thank God. Right. Because I think that is detrimental to most humans that end up having an eating disorder like that. But I wasn't healthy mentally and emotionally. I body shamed myself. I, always compared myself to my friends. I always thought I was fatter than them. I never liked how I looked in pictures. I would always hide behind people, and that, that just impacts you.
Right.
So I, came up a little bit stronger and was like, I need to educate myself. Like, how can I feel better about myself with at least the knowledge of knowing what to do to get out of that problem?
Right.
If I'm feeling overweight, then maybe there is an issue and I need to at least try to fix that. So that's where I was like, okay, I need to learn how to eat. I need to learn how to exercise and get healthy. And I didn't even, you're so young.
Right.
Even in college though, I didn't even realize it's not, to me, people think of health as being skinny, having an 8-pack, squatting, 200 pounds. It's not just that. It's all encompassing.
Absolutely.
It's the mental, the emotional. It's the spiritual, your faith, whatever. It's all basically in unison.
Absolutely.
And so I didn't realize that going on this path was actually just going to be a ton of emotional and mental well-being as well.
Yeah. So let's just talk for a minute, because you're a businesswoman and you've had a lot of life experiences and have learned a lot, and you are still learning. Let's talk about just the impact of words, because those somehow these words about your stomach and your boobs and all that got relayed to you, and that just kind of just did something with your mind, and then kind of took you in a negative direction, at least for a season of your life. But I know for me, we were talking before we turned the mic on, Brynn, that the big impetus behind the podcast is to give people that platform to share their story. So like I believe in the power of the written word, and I also believe in the power of, you know, the spoken word. And I know for me, being a school teacher, I know the words that I speak will either positively or negatively impact those kids that are before me. So just kind of like in your life experiences, and then maybe not even specifically to the stomach one or whatever, but just overall in your life experiences and what you've learned, like what is the power of what comes out of our mouths and how it can impact other people's lives?
Oh, wow. So it's really interesting you say that, because I'm actually on this journey of not just what you're saying. So one of my, I guess I do have a favorite quote.
Okay, well, that's cool. Is it from Grant Cardone?
No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not. It's I don't even know who said it, but it's be the most interested, not the most interesting person in the room.
Okay.
And I love that because yes, there is power of words, but there's also power of listening.
Ooh, yeah.
And
for sure.
so honestly, like everyone has a story and everyone has emotion behind it. And so, you know, if you're trying to tell your story, who's listening? You know, maybe it's once you share your story, it's pausing for a moment and asking what their story is and seeing, you know, why are they there?
Right.
Whatever. If it's at your seminar, if it's at you know, a yoga class, like there are so many women that come to my class and men, you know, that just need someone to listen to them. You know, they are resonating with what I'm telling them, but they just need to be heard. And so I think there's it's interesting because you're talking about speaking, but like there's so much more to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's also
like
being
that.
heard
Yes.
and giving that space to listen. And that's, I don't know, it's kind of like off topic a little bit.
It's
but,
not. No,
yeah.
it's all part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we live in a culture where everybody's talking, everybody's trying to give their advice and things of that nature. But I agree with you 100% in terms of usually the person that is going to learn the most and learn the quickest and be the most in tune is the person that's listening. And usually if you're sitting in a room, everybody's talking, there's usually one person that's not talking as much, or maybe they're not talking at all, but they're just sitting there and they're listening. And you know what I found in my life experience with speaking and just, you know, living life and being around the culture that we're in with everybody trying to talk and social media and stuff is that person that is the best listener, when they actually speak, most of the time everybody shuts up, and the words that come out of that great listener's mouth have a greater impact and are much more powerful, you know, because they've listened, they've taken in other people's words, they're observing, they're you know, have that awareness, and the best listeners are usually the most powerful speakers. So I agree 100% what you said, and that's something for me personally, just being very open and transparent and real. Like I love to talk, I love to share, but I have known for a long time that, you know, I need to be a better listener, because I know there's a lot of power in listening, and that gives you power to be a better, more powerful speaker. So a big part of the podcast for me that you know, it's really helping me to be a better listener. And as you listen more, you're able to ask better questions. You're able to connect with that human being that is before you in a more profound way. So 100% agree, and I really appreciate you kind of turning that question.
I know, I totally.
No, it's good though. It's great.
Sorry.
No, it's not. It's perfect. It's exactly the way it needs to be, because you're just being authentically who you are and just sharing your perspective, and it's good. It's good. So let's so you go to the University of Vermont, is that correct?
Yeah.
And you're studying exercise science, nutrition, kind of just like learning all that. Now, I also found on your website, I think towards the end of college, you kind of like saw a picture of yourself or looked at yourself in the mirror or something, and you didn't really, even at that time with all that studying, didn't really appreciate what you saw in that picture in the mirror. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, and you kind of already talked about the body image thing, but I really want to camp out here, Brynn, because there's a lot of females and there's
Yes.
a lot of males, myself included, from a very young age that have struggled and still struggle, and I will probably struggle until the day I die with how I look, my body image, and all that. So I know it's a work in progress. I know it's, you're continuing to work on yourself, but how have you at this stage of life been able to kind of work through all that? And how do you kind of keep that mental game focused on what you need to focus on rather than maybe your image?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Great questions. First of all, I think you're a really great listener.
Well, thank you.
I saw your notes for the podcast and I was like, okay, he is so good. Okay,
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think you're a great listener, first of all. Second of all, I think one of the biggest things is personal development, hands down. Like, you've got to be doing the work. And I got to give a shout out to my girl, Brynn Brown. Her book, Gifts of Imperfection, that transformed my life completely as well. I mean, it just allows you to be where you're at and know that, there is no perfection. And the big thing, shame is a real thing. Guilt is a real thing. And making yourself feel bad about something is awful. And it happens all day long. Whether it's, how you feel after this podcast, or when you look in the mirror, or when you're lifting and you can't lift the same amount that you lifted the day yesterday, or she can do a full split next to me, but I can't. And a lot of shame gets attached to that. And it's being able to release that, coming from a space of non-judgment and being like, okay, let it go.
Right.
I'm so grateful for Frozen coming out and that Let It Go song, because
that was a good song.
That's my anthem.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's just a great way to remind yourself, stop taking things so seriously and let that negativity go, let go of that self-hate, that shame, that guilt. And release that, and you know what's going to happen? You're going to have less anxiety, less stress, less pain. Your hormones will be more in balance, and then ultimately, you're going to have the success that you wanted anyway.
Right.
It all starts from your mental and your emotional
Absolutely.
space. So I say, number one, personal development. Grab a book. Brene Brown, Gabrielle Bernstein, Tony Robbins. There's so many.
Grant Cardone.
He was a little intense for that self-love. But that's where it started. Therapy, I think there's this negative image around therapy, and I've done hours and hours of personal development seminars. I've seen Tony Robbins live. I've done different courses and seminars in therapy with an actual therapist. And
absolutely.
And we have this idea that you're broken if you were doing that, and it's no. I'm not broken, A, and B, I'm just trying to get my life a little bit more elevated.
Yes.
And it's just step by step.
Right.
And learning to just say kind things to yourself, kind words. And so it's funny because my yoga theme this week is kindness.
Perfect.
So how can you share a little bit of kindness for yourself? Because ultimately, the more kindness that you can have in your heart for yourself, the more that you can share with others.
That's powerful.
So
okay, so you and I understand what personal development is, but there may be some listeners out there, and that's a word, especially kind of in the business world and health and fitness. It's thrown around all the time, so we're really conditioned and understand that personal development. But for the listener or listeners out there that they're kind of personal development, we know that's kind of it's personal, so it's me, it's myself or whatever. But what is that? And you gave examples of going to conferences and reading books and things like that. But just generally speaking, if somebody doesn't really understand what personal development is, what is that? What does that look like? Again, maybe for you or for somebody that is wanting to step into that.
I think the biggest word that you can connect, or best word, is awareness.
Okay.
So your awareness around your thoughts, your emotions, your communication, and how that translates or correlates with your emotional state and how you are in life. So, you're developing your brain and your heart pretty much. Personal development. You're trying to focus. So you want to learn how to be a doctor, you're going to go to med school, right? You want to learn how to be happy, you're going to develop your head and your heart. I think of it like that, as layman's terms as you can get. Because ultimately you find awareness and triggers. So what is it specifically that, that puts you in that space of guilt or shame, and, how can you focus on the positive things or whatever tools or techniques you're using. So it might be something as simple as a mantra I am beautiful, I am strong, I am confident. I'm sure we've all seen those Nike ads at some point,
Yeah,
but it's that same type of thing. So it's learning whatever tool or technique you want to use to help get you to that next space. It's not like, I know we were talking earlier, like there's black and white. The thing about personal development, it's not black and white. It's a whole lot of gray. And what I benefit from, like the conversations and the books that I read, you might not like. Those might not work for you.
Right, for sure.
You know? And so same thing with all of our listeners. Like, it's not like you're going to pick up one book and you're going to be fixed.
Right.
It's that whole quote about, like, it's not the end destination, it's all about the journey.
Yep, for sure.
And so it's taking, maybe one word, one phrase from one book and then going to the next book or going to a seminar and feeling the impact that, just like connecting eyes with like Tony Robbins, like, or oh my gosh, like just being in these seminar, like when you're in a seminar and you hear someone else's stories and their struggle and their breakdown and the emotional impact it has on them, it like breaks you up.
Right.
And it's just, so it's picking this journey of choosing to want and to do anything you can for a better life, and just knowing that you're on it and you're gonna just dive into whatever. I mean, it's like this podcast. You're going to use this podcast as a type of form of personal development.
Absolutely.
Like, this is developing you in some way. So what's one thing that you can take away from this conversation, or from the conversation you have with your best friend tomorrow, or from your yoga instructor or your personal trainer or your nutritionist? Or if you don't have any of those, then like look at your life and say, okay, where can I start to create a little more space and a little more time to create a better network of health professionals? I'm very fortunate that like one of my closest friends, she actually was just on your podcast.
Yeah.
She came to my yoga class and now she's my physical therapist. And so I've got her as like one of my people in my network. And so it's just you make time and you start to create this. And now it's like, I look around and everyone I know is doing what I'm doing.
Right. Missy. Shout out to her. She's the reason why you're on my podcast right now.
Oh my gosh.
Sent the connection through Instagram.
Yeah.
So kind of like my takeaway from what you're sharing in regards to like personal development is, first of all, as an individual, we need to be open to learn.
Yes.
And then once we step into being open to learn and we begin to learn, the second step then is to take action, because we can learn and we can listen to all these podcasts, go to all these conferences, just ingest and spend money for all of this like quote unquote personal development. But if I don't take action on that knowledge, then that knowledge doesn't have really any value in my life. Agree or disagree?
I totally agree. There's another quote. I'm going to totally butcher it.
No, you told me.
I know. I can't.
You told me before we even started this. Like, I don't really have any quotes, but you also said, in fairness, you said like there's different seasons, so there's different.
Yeah. It's like
so there's not just one favorite.
No.
I got you.
I have this one friend that sends me about 5 quotes a day.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing.
That's like cool. That's cool overload. Though.
Oh, it is.
I don't know
cool.
if I can handle that.
A lot of it's like manifestation and and prayer work. So it's cool. But so I believe our society is overeducated, under active, I think is the word. I can't remember.
That's
I'm butchering it, but we'll have to.
I get.
But
what
it's
you're
exactly
trying
that.
To say,
so like. You've got to put things in place. Like like we can continue to learn, but if you're not actually applying the knowledge that you're learning, then are you actually growing and changing? Right.
Okay, cool. So let's kind of get back to your own personal journey and story. So college, you're studying and learning about health and fitness and all that. What does those first few years post college look like for you?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that photo earlier. So when I first left college, I moved out to Colorado trying to get a job in nutrition or something related. I
don't want to interrupt, but I did just interrupt because why Colorado? Because you're up in Vermont. Like that's way northeast. Colorado's like, I know. That's a long trip. So just just for the listeners, because we want to
Yes.
know, I want to know, because I didn't find that, I don't think, on your website. So why Colorado?
So I feel like I've told this story to everyone, but so I actually wanted to move to San Diego.
Oh, okay.
And my best friend that we were moving out here together, she wanted to move to Tahoe, and I was like, I'm not ready for, I don't want like a mountain town. Like I love skiing and I'm a great skier, but I didn't want to be a ski bum.
Okay.
And we just kept researching, and Denver had the sunniest, it was the most days of sun, it was the highest amount of jobs, the lowest rent at the time. We were fresh out of college, highest liquor sales, and we were both single, and it was the highest rates of men, I think, single men and singles and men.
You guys were dialed in there.
Oh, we totally
you checked off all the boxes, right? You guys
Yeah.
weren't playing around. I like it. It's good.
So that was why.
Okay.
And I knew I needed to be in a progressive city because I studied nutrition.
Yep.
So I couldn't go to a city that, had a bunch of McDonald's and people weren't actually trying to better themselves.
Gotcha.
So landed in Colorado, got a job. I was still living that college lifestyle. And I remember my brother being like, Brynn, like, you've got to live the lifestyle that you're promoting. And I was like, oh, so I can't.
That's a quote right there.
I can't drink every night.
No.
Stay up until midnight. And
Right.
And I started doing yoga. And so when you first start doing heated yoga and you have alcohol in your system, it's miserable. Like you're just sweating and you feel awful. And so I realized that was my breaking point where I needed to make my health a priority and my social and my drinking not a priority.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's when I made the switch. So
you're out here in beautiful sunny Denver, Colorado. Your brother kind of speaks powerfully into your life. Like you kind of just need to practice what you're preaching.
Yeah.
So what was kind of the job situation, the career situation when you got out here? Did you find that a nutrition job or a fitness job right away? Kind of what was the transformation with that?
Yeah. So I started working in a restaurant right away because I just needed a job.
Yeah, for sure.
It was like somebody has to pay the bills, and it's not my parents.
Right.
So I got a job in the restaurant industry, and then I got a career in a weight loss company.
Okay.
And it was great. I loved it, for the time being. And then I just couldn't stand behind some of the products.
Right.
And so I knew it wasn't a fit. So I started taking yoga, fell in love with that, I was like, I need to teach this. This is awesome. So I started teaching, fell in love with that, went full-time, got into management. I was chugging the Kool-Aid like it was my job. And I was so underpaid, so overworked, just completely burnt out. And then I didn't have any other time. I didn't know what else to do, but I needed to make more money. So I got involved with a network marketing company and started basically working with them part-time. And I was able to basically help my yoga students, continue their health outside of the yoga studio. So with nutrition, with, supplements, with weight loss support, with really honestly a lot of mental and emotional support as well.
Right.
So health coaching, life coaching. And
Okay,
then
cool.
Just a couple years back I switched companies and I actually stepped back a little bit from yoga. So I only teach a couple classes and I just focus on working my life coaching type of job with a different company and basically focusing on repping collagen supplements, which I absolutely love. And then I also help women who are struggling financially to, create another side income. So
beautiful. Okay, so I just want to. I know that for people like yourself and myself, and probably a lot of the listeners, I was an athlete growing up, played college football, very type A, very driven, go, all that type of stuff. It can be, I think, very easy for us to kind of fall into this thing of just do and we're health and fitness and all this. And I really appreciate what your brother said and those powerful words that he spoke into your life. So let's talk a little bit about kind of that trap or kind of that place where some of us can fall into where we're going so hard and we're trying to give so much to everybody else and we're putting that health and fitness out there, but then we kind of go back to we've talked about a little bit earlier, maybe we're not taking care of ourselves. So let's just talk about, and I really feel like a lot of the ladies, the powerful women that I've had on this podcast, they've touched on this, and I know there's going to be some ladies that are going to be listening to this specific episode. So maybe just speak, Brynn, to the ladies out there where they're just like, they're giving, and maybe they're not even in health and fitness, but maybe it's just their career, their job, their family life. They're giving, but at the end of the day, they're left empty. So speak to those women, speak to those people, Brynn, of how they can really, again, we're going back to that self-care, but take care of themselves first, and why that's important, so that they can have that more powerful impact with the people they're trying to serve or give to.
I love that you brought this up, because I have this conversation on a daily basis.
Right, yep.
I have a lot of moms that come into my class, and their number one priority is never themselves.
Correct, yep.
And they're just like frazzled and like annoyed and stressed, and we're seeing divorces all over the place. We're seeing kids that are just struggling. And then at the same time, like, I've got a lot of colleagues, like a lot of yoga instructors that I work with still, that are just like, they're not making ends meet.
Right,
and they're burnt out, they're miserable, they don't know what else to do. And ultimately, like, you have to take a look at your schedule. Mm-hmm. You've got to block out time for yourself, and whatever it is that you love, go and do it. If you love getting a massage, go get a massage. If you love getting pedicure, manicure, go do that thing. Like, give yourself some time to do that, whatever those physical things are. Like, if you love running, go do that physical thing, but then also the mental, emotional, spiritual things. So like, if that means you need to take 30 minutes a day to go like read your book, or go see a therapist, or go to church, or listen to a podcast, like, take that time and actually do that. Right. I think the hard thing is we say there's not enough time, and it's not time, it's priorities.
Absolutely.
And bottom line, like, you have to make yourself the priority. Like, it's crazy what we're willing to do for other people, but we're not willing to do for ourselves. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned, I was a lifeguard. And I remember
like at a swimming pool or the ocean, or what?
Like a camp counselor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
lifeguard.
Okay.
And we were going through our lifeguard training, and they were basically saying, like, if you don't have a raft, like a way to save yourself, you cannot save anyone else.
Great point. Yeah.
Because they will take you down too.
Right.
So, and it's hard to say that and like, realize that, but at the same time, like, number one, you have to be the priority. No matter what. Like, mom needs her time, yoga instructor needs her time. Like, if I didn't have my time of self-love, I can't stand teaching. I don't want to go in there.
Yep.
And it's almost like an injustice to my students for me not taking the time. When I know I've taught too many classes and I need to sub out a class, like, I'll do that. I take that time, because like, I've got to be able to come back wiser, stronger, healthier, the next day.
For sure.
And you end up burning out. And I actually was just talking to a friend the other day, and she's like, I had to step back because she was so burnt out. And then you end up completely, I don't want to say failing, but completely, I guess, failing. Like, you end up getting a divorce, you end up, with sickness, or you end up, there's a bunch of different things.
You break down.
Yeah, you break down.
Because it's just like a car. If you don't, and I've got some room to improve on this. And Mom, don't laugh too hard when you hear this, but this is a great analogy, I think, to what you're trying to say, Brynn, is if you have a vehicle, you need to get the tires rotated on a regular basis, right? You need to get an oil change. You need to get the alignment. You need to take care of that car. You can drive it and drive it and drive it and drive it. The same thing with the human body. You can drive and take that human body so far, because it's been made and we've evolved so beautifully and so powerfully. But at some point, there's going to be a breakdown. I'm going to blow a tire because I didn't get the tires, rotator. I don't have new tires. I didn't get the oil change. Something eventually is going to give, and that's what happens with the human condition, the human body, the mindset, all of that humanity. If you aren't taking care of yourself, eventually there's going to be an implosion, there's going to be an explosion, there's going to be a breakdown, and then you're going to have to try to put the pieces together, and that's like where the crisis is, and that sucks going through that.
Yeah,
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's a lot harder to overcome. Like think
Right.
of it like a physical injury too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we've all, well, not maybe we all haven't, but like when you overuse your muscles, your joints, etc., and you get to a point where like you're out, you're injured or whatever happens, like then you have to wait. You know, when you could have just taken one day off, now you're injured and now you have to take 6 weeks off.
That sucks.
And that all comes back to our listening. If you listened, if you're a little more in tune to like what your body's telling you, your mind, you know, when you go to wake up in the morning, if you're feeling exhausted, lethargic, if you have foggy brain, like what's going on besides just that? Like there's something else that's a little bit deeper seated that you're not listening to that's trying to come out. So yeah, but I totally agree with you. Like I think self-care is huge in whatever self-care means to you. It's not like this black and white thing. It's whatever works for you, because we're all different.
Yes.
We all have different needs and wants and desires and passions. And you know, whatever works for you. Right.
So so for the person out there listening right now, Brynn, that is just kind of in that overwhelmed state, they don't know kind of like what to do. What's one actionable step, or let's like maybe put it in this position, like let's say you're talking to that client after a yoga class and they're just like I'm at my wit's end, I'm just like I'm over it, I'm done, I don't know, I'm burned out, all that stuff. What's maybe one actionable step that you would give them after that yoga class to kind of take, and they can start like right here, right now, moving in that direction of self-awareness, self-development, and all that type of stuff?
I love that you mentioned that. So I've been doing this every day and every night, and I actually got this from Sean Johnson, who wrote Transit, who I love. I think he's awesome. Okay, so first off, take a deep breath. I even make myself do it. Secondly, so it's 5 steps. So this works for whatever belief you have, whoever you are. I say my gratitude, so what I'm thankful for. I release my anxiety by my guilt or the shame that I have, like, you know, forgive myself for whatever it was. If I, you know, didn't do what I said I was going to do, if I lied, if you know, whatever I'm holding shame or guilt about. Then I ask for whatever it is that I want to receive. It might be for me. It might be for someone else in my life. Like right now, my brother's having a baby.
There you go. You're going to be an aunt,
I know. I'm so excited.
First one. Oh, cool.
First one for our family. So I'm excited. So right now, a lot of my like positive energy and intention is going out to that little baby. So that's step 3. Step 4 is saying or being vulnerable and open to, you know, I'm ready to receive. I'm open. I'm willing to learn. Basically just saying, you know, I'm willing to be open to the different things coming into my life. And then lastly, what I love that you mentioned earlier was action. So what action steps are you going to take in order to achieve number 3? So whatever you asked for. So, you know, if you're praying on, you know, better health, what are you going to do? Like, you've got to do something too. You're not going to be eating a McDonald's like double-sized burger and just have a 6-pack. Right now I'm leading an ab challenge, so in my online community, and so it's like, okay, people are complaining about or they want to fix something. It's like, go out and do something. So what's the action that you want to do about it? But yeah, so I share this with all of my clients, a lot of my yoga students, and my friends. If anyone's having like any trouble, I just say, you know, try these 5 things every morning, every night.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Brynn. Now let's you kind of just mentioned your online community, and that's something that was really that you put out there like on your website, and it's on your Instagram and things like that. So let's talk about, and then, you know, just even like with the yoga community, but let's talk about the importance of, and again, we've kind of, I think, touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about Grant Cardone, things like that, but what is the importance of us as human beings having a solid community around us so if you don't mind kind of answering that, and then I want you to talk about the community or the communities that you've kind of created, like your online communities. And I know you guys, I saw some stuff on Instagram, you guys kind of have different meetups. So first of all, what's the value? What's the importance? What's the necessity as a human being to have community and have that other human connection? And then go ahead and share about the communities that you've kind of surrounded yourself with or created.
Yeah. I mean, community's everything.
Yep.
We're humans. We're meant to be in a society of human, of connection
Absolutely.
and emotion. So, I mean, get a community, no matter whether it's at your school, your church, your yoga studio, your, I don't even know, wherever you're going, create a community. And maybe it's something that you're not currently in. That's okay. Whatever. So go back to the action steps. Like, what actions are you going to take to receive whatever it is that you're asking for? Get a community that's based in that. You know, like if you're trying to get healthy, then start going to the gym and make friends with the front desk people.
Right.
Like, I walk into the gym and I have to say hi to 5 people before I even start my workout.
I like that.
Because I want to like have a sense of like family and connection and community in wherever I go. Like it's emotion. And it makes you feel like you're valued and you're cared about as well.
Right.
So that's really important. You can have multiple different communities of, friends that you went to college with. You can have different networks, right? Like, so keep in mind that each community serves a different purpose. If you are really focused on health and well-being, then you're going to want to focus on getting a community that maybe knows a little bit more than you, that can help educate you and really motivate you. If you're trying to change your life and be a little more positive, you're probably not going to call your drinking buddies your community for that.
Right.
Instead it'll be like your people that you go to yoga with or the people that you go to church with. Like, it's all about the mindset of that community, right? Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind as well. Your community that you've kind of created and kind of like how you guys do different events. How did you create your community? Like, you have I think it's called the Rhino Nation, kind of like an organization, and there's like the My Healthy Lifestyle community. So what is all of that? And then how did you personally create that? Like, I'm sure it kind of came from that spot of you saying, okay, I want to be around these type of people. So you probably went out and sought those type of people. How did kind of that unfold for you creating these communities? Yes. Okay. Well, first of all, I can't take all the credit.
Okay, cool.
I co-created one of them, and then I'm a member of another.
Perfect.
But so Rhino Nation, that's our group of entrepreneurs.
Okay, beautiful.
My best friend, my mentor, Michelle Barnes, created that group.
Okay,
and
cool.
She's been my community. She is like literally my rock when I'm in the worst place and when I'm at my like highest high. She's always there for me, and she's one of the people that has really helped my personal development.
Okay.
She tells me every single day. She'll even be like, okay, go. Today she sent me like Bob Proctor's video, The Secret. She was like, you need to rewatch this again. So I'm so fortunate. I have the best accountability buddy. So if you can find someone like that, then that's great. So Michelle created that group, and so I'm a part of it, and it's all a bunch of entrepreneurs. We work together, and we are basically just trying to make a difference in people's lives, not just with weight loss and with supplements, but also with lifestyle. Like, how can we help, single moms? Like, how can we help someone that's 80 grand in debt from college students?
Okay, cool.
College loans or student loans or whatever, etc. Just those are 2 examples. And then My Healthy Lifestyle community, I co-created that. So that's a couple different fitness individuals. So we've got some, one of the ladies is a nurse and shaman. My favorite people in the world, couple. They're both like bikini pros, like fitness extraordinaires, and they are also entrepreneurs, owned a supplement shop. We've got a couple other personal trainers, yoga instructors. And so basically what happens, we have this online community. It's an accountability group. We share every single day tips and techniques in order to help better your life. Whether it's nutrition related, fitness related, mental, emotionally, like spiritually, etc. And it's I mean, it's awesome.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. And so basically, these communities that you're a part of, it sounds like it's really kind of fuel for your fire. Like it just really like motivates you, inspires you. You mentioned accountability, so it's just kind of like a group of people, whether you're up or you're down, you can kind of go to and pour yourself kind of out to them. They kind of like pour back into you, and it really kind of like stokes that fire. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Cool. All right. So now you kind of mentioned earlier about like helping, I think specifically women like online and stuff like that. So, and some of the stuff that I was kind of reading about you is kind of like just kind of creating that life. You have created that life that you kind of wanted for yourself. I think kind of through just on the online kind of like the market and business and stuff. So just talk about how somebody would kind of like take those steps to create maybe an online business. Kind of like what does all of that kind of look like? Because we hear about drop shipping, we hear about all these different online avenues, Amazon and things like that. But how do you help women kind of create that life that they are trying to create for themselves, specifically through like kind of that online presence or business?
Yeah. So I specifically help people that are interested in the same thing that I'm interested in. So we share the same passion. So, that's why would you go get help from someone in IT if they study nutrition?
Great point. Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
I
would be like, you don't know what I know.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. So this is just speaking very generally. Whatever you have a passion in, go do it. Because ultimately you will have success. If you have passion, you will have success. So my passion is in nutrition. It's in body image. It's in helping people create a healthier life. I want to live a long, healthy life.
Right.
I want people to do the same thing, have a long, healthy, happy life, right? So I'm going to connect with women that want to do the same thing. I'm going to connect with women that are tired of working their 9 to 5s, that are burnt out teaching yoga, and men as well too. I don't want to say no men, but I'm a woman, so
right. No, I
connect.
Gotcha.
I connect better with women,
and I connect better with dudes. So it's good. It's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And good. So basically, I focus on that. I try to see where people are struggling and if I can help them. And what I love about what I do is I never try to pressure anyone to do what I'm doing. If
I like that. It's
not for them, I am such a wealth of networking.
Right.
I connect with them with someone else that will be.
That's great.
And that's what I love about what I do is I network all day long. So I'm able to connect people.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I actually just had a gentleman add me on Facebook. And so I reached out and I asked if we knew each other. And he said no, but that he was inspired by my profile and that his wife does something similar to me.
Okay.
Or we have the same interest. And it was all about, she has a company for kids' health food products.
Okay.
And I was like, no way, that's so interesting. I'm actually going to be on this podcast with this guy, that I don't know, but I met through social media.
Hey, but a mutual friend, Misty, right?
No, I know, through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
But that has the same vision, that wants to create this school for kids that, and so right away, honestly, I think I had a conversation with you, and then my next conversation was with that guy. And I was like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm going to have to connect them.
For sure.
But so that's what I do, and that it serves me knowing that I'm serving you guys or someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a financial benefit just from networking and connecting you, because the emotion behind it, the impact behind it makes me... That's enough.
Yeah, it lights you up.
Yeah. Of a gift.
Makes you feel good, and that's beautiful. So, one of the things I kind of introduce you as, and it's kind of like the tagline on your personal website is lifestyle expert. So, I want to know what that is. Does that involve dress and what somebody wears or not?
Oh my gosh! I mean,
does it? Because I might need some. I might need some pointers. But beside that, what is lifestyle expert? Kind of what does that entail?
So there's no certification for it. I decided that was my new title.
Yeah, you stepped into that.
Oh yes,
I like
did.
that. It's beautiful. Yeah.
So I think of it more in the realms of what we were talking about. We think about health as being, fit and being able to go for a run and having an 8-pack, and it's not that.
Right, right.
It's a lifestyle. Like health is creating like a complete balance mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, through financial as well.
Right.
Through relationships and family. And so there's a bunch of different avenues that you can go in, and I've just done a ton of work basically fine-tuning all of these avenues, and I just share that wealth of knowledge that I have with my clients, and whatever their problem is, I try to figure out a way either to fix it or have them fix it.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to help me with my my dress, because I'm like, I don't know, man. I need a female to be like, all right,
so I have a fun story.
Quentin, these colors are good, these colors are not, because usually I'm just like, if I gotta have some sort of like quote unquote like dress up or whatever, it's like, let's just stick to like white, black, red, just some like colors that maybe will
So when I was I love that. No, first of all, I love that. I'm happy to help you.
You know what's great? You know what's crazy? I gotta share this really quick.
Okay.
So I told you I lived in Detroit, Michigan. Okay, and in the summer I worked at the downtown YMCA in Detroit, and then during like the Christmas season and all that, I got a job in one of the suburbs at a J.C. Penney's working in. Well, I did some cashiering, which that's a whole other story, but in the men's department. So I'd have I'd have ladies, like come up to be like, oh hey, like what do you think about this? Would this look good on my son? Or I'm like, that I think that's great. I was like, dude, I told myself, I was like, dude, like what are you doing in a men's department at JCPenney? Like you can't even like, I wear shorts and a t-shirt, like white t-shirt all the time, because it's like, it's just simple, but I can't really mess that up. But anyway, so
well,
back
fashion,
to what you were saying.
Fashion I can totally help you with.
That's
but
good.
It's also it's dependent on you.
Right.
I like to tell a story because I think it's adorable. I used to tie my brother's ties before school when we were getting ready. My mom would have to get up early and go to the hospital, and so I would like tie it. So I was always like trying to dress my brothers.
That's good. You've had experience.
Yeah.
That's good.
So.
All right, I love it. So we're gonna kind of start heading kind of towards the finish line here, Brynn. Now I want to touch on, because nutrition, as you've kind of shared your story and your heart and your passion throughout this conversation, nutrition has come up a lot, and you've kind of really made that clear. Like you're passionate about helping people with their nutrition. Also just like the overall holistic approach to life and health, but nutrition's come up a lot. You studied it, and then like in the beginning you mentioned like some of the stuff that you put into like your coffee, that kind of sparked my mind with like keto. So it's kind of like the keto diet or kind of that keto lifestyle. Is that what you found is kind of the best way for you to eat, or is it kind of something else? What does the nutrition look like for you personally?
I'm so glad you brought this up, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. I am not about restrictions and extremes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think that keto is a great tool, and if you need to use it, then use it. It's not a lifestyle that I suggest for my clients or for myself. I don't believe that it's that sustainable.
Right.
That's just my own belief.
Absolutely.
You can do whatever you want, whatever works for you. I'm a believer of focusing on more of like a Mediterranean and more of like a sustainable diet. So I shop at natural grocers and
love natural grocers.
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite, because you go there, it's going to be fresh, it's organic, and it's most likely local. And it's affordable too.
Absolutely.
So I try to focus on cooking with whatever's in season, and that's typically what my body is craving, and that's also more Ayurvedically, which is more on the yoga side. But I think it's all really dependent on your body and what you need. I think the biggest thing when you're focusing on nutrition is gut health. And the biggest thing is trying to avoid anything that you are allergic to or that inflames your body.
Right.
I was talking to my doctor about this, and I'm pretty sure it's like 75% of people are allergic to gluten and dairy.
Right.
So if you can avoid those products, avoid those products. I also have the belief that if you're eating those products in organic, types
Yeah,
of foods,
yeah.
You're less likely to have the negative effects than if you were to have like a processed, ice cream from whatever.
Dairy Queen.
I was just going to say Dairy Queen. Oh my gosh. Okay. But exactly. So same thing. So, whatever triggers you negatively, avoid that.
Right.
Everything in moderation. If keto's your thing, go for it. If veganism is your thing, if pescatarian, vegetarian, like, oh my gosh, there's a name for everything.
Right, yeah.
So I just like to eat what I like to eat.
Perfect. And that's kind of like that's kind of the message you put out there to people kind of in your influence is, helping them to kind of find out what works best for them and their body specifically, right?
Definitely. And also your goals. Like, you were saying that you're into bodybuilding.
Yep.
Like, you're going to need to eat a different diet than I'm going to eat.
Absolutely.
Someone that is trying to gain strength versus someone that's trying to lose weight versus someone that is trying to run a marathon, they all need different food. So it's not black and white. It's not eat keto and you're gonna become X, Y, and Z. It's like, what are your goals? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to gain weight? Are you trying to build muscle mass? Are you trying to avoid inflammation? Do you have a chronic disease that you're trying to avoid? Do you have celiac? Do you not want to eat meat because you don't want to, like you value animals' lives or whatever it is? Then do that.
Okay, cool.
And always consult someone if you have any questions. Like, if you're doing a personal training program, like, make sure your personal training is helping you with your nutrition. Like, if you ever need support, you can always reach out.
Right.
But it's not an end all be all. It's specifically for you, and then every day could change.
Right.
It all changes hormonally as well.
Yeah, that's that final statement there is perfect, because I know for me, as I've gotten older, and I was actually Missy did some visceral manipulation on me the other day, and I was sharing this with her. Like, the older I've gotten, specific foods that I was able to eat, like kind of like that bodybuilding lifestyle when I was in my 20s. Now, as I've gotten older and into my 30s, there's certain foods that they just don't sit well with my stomach. So I've had to really adjust. And for me, and this is for you listeners out there, and just to really hammer home the point you just made, Brynn, is that, like, even day to day, like, the foods might change in regards to, like, how your gut, your stomach, the digestion kind of can handle them. So again, going back to kind of like one of those overall takeaways from this conversation is that self-awareness. Like, that's why it's so important for us to be aware and in tune with our thoughts and, like, our heart and just that inner being, because things are always changing, especially when it comes to food and, like, the different things that are put into foods if you're eating out at a restaurant. So just be aware, be open to adjusting and changing when necessary, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
And I love that. It goes back to listening.
Absolutely, yeah. We all need to be better listeners, like just our culture. Listen more, talk less. So I want to touch on this last little subject here before I ask you the last question. And you talked about in kind of the beginning first question in regards to how do you start your day, you mentioned the word consistency, and then we were just going back and forth chatting a little bit on Instagram, talking about how we both get up really early, and I said something about, it helps me create that momentum. So I'm a very firm believer of how you start your day how you start your day is how you're going to end your day. So I like to wake up early. I like to get some things done. I have my own morning routine, and that creates that consistency, that creates confidence, and that creates momentum, and that allows me to be a very powerful individual throughout my day, and I have that momentum in my life. So you mentioned the importance of consistency, but and that builds into that momentum and confidence. But for you as a powerful woman, as a powerful individual wanting to positively impact the world and the people around you, how important is that confidence that you have in yourself, and how important is having momentum in your life?
Oh my gosh, like, so important. Like, it's everything.
Right,
I mean, and it all goes back to that personal development.
Right.
I do want to mention, so it's funny you say how you start your day. Say that again.
So the way you start your day is how you're going to end your day.
So want to challenge you and say how
Yes.
you end your day is actually how you start your day.
Absolutely.
Because mine's all
Absolutely.
about my nighttime routine.
Yes.
Because I am way more successful if I prepare the night before than I am that day. So say I go out and I have drinks with friends. I'm going to be hungover the next morning. Right? And say I don't, and I go to bed early, I'm reading my self-help books, I'm doing my 5 steps. I'm going to wake up, even if I don't have an alarm, after my like 7.5, 8 hours, right? So it's almost like, and then I'm ready. Like I don't even have to think about it. I know I'm going in the right direction. So I want to challenge you, and that sense of like your nighttime routine is even more important than your bedtime routine, because if you solidify your nighttime routine, your morning routine is going to happen anyway, because you're there, you're in the mindset, you're ready to go, you're excited, you're energized, and back to what you're saying, like you're confident, you're you're organized. Like I find my confidence is the highest when I am feeling most organized. And in control and in a routine. But that's how I work. That's my personality. But I mean, especially as women, like we all need a little extra confidence. So whatever you can do to give yourself some extra self-love and, and all that good stuff.
Challenge accepted. I like that. That's good. See, that's the power of like human connection and just being able to be open and real with another human being and like have a quote unquote adult conversation, is because it's like my like one of my most powerful like statements in my mind and like self-talk for myself is like, okay, Quentin, every situation that you are going to be in, every experience that you're going to step into on this day is an opportunity for you to learn. So there's positive experiences in life. There's negative experiences. There's things that are kind of indifferent or in between. If my mindset, if my eyes and my ears and my heart are open to my life experiences each day, and they're open to learn, then I can learn. And then I grow and mature and become who I want to be. So I love it that you challenged me, or you gave me that food for thought, because that's never occurred to me. And it's absolutely, you're right. You know what I mean? Like how you end your day is how you're going to start your day, and then how you start your day is going to be how you end your day. So it's beautiful. It's great. Cycle. I love it. Yes. So the last question, and we kind of like already touched on it a little bit, and it's okay if you repeat yourself. Not a big deal. But the last question I have for you, Brynn, is what sets your soul on fire?
I'm so curious how you came, what?
I ask, most of the time, this is some version of this. It kind of depends whether it's a female or a male. Like I might kind of twist it, but earlier I kind of finished a sentence for you and said, that lights you up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think we were talking about, you helping people, or that human connection, something on that level. But I usually, this is kind of on some version, how I end the conversation.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's funny. It's just, I used to work with a girl that like created her brand off that.
Yeah.
And so I love it. It's genius. So 2 things, like what lights me up. First, seeing other people happy. And then secondly, nature.
Perfect.
Like being outside, like my soul just like literally explodes with happiness. We were out, 2 girlfriends and I were out hiking this weekend in Vail, and they're both brand new to Colorado. So I was like showing off and like, oh, this is this.
Right.
And the one girl's in the back, she's like, guys, I think I'm crying. Because we were all so happy. Our souls just literally felt like they were cracked apart. And then the other thing is, like, if you're not in the nature, like seeing someone else smile, like making someone else's day, like I love that. Yeah,
that's cool. Something that I like, something that lights me up in regards to kind of like seeing other people happy, and sadly this is something we don't really see. I don't see it very often in our society here in America, but like whenever I see it, and it's cool if it's like a younger couple, but when I see an older couple like out in like the mall or the grocery store or whatever holding hands, like I don't know what it is. I mean, I could probably express it, but I'm not going to right now. But like, there's just something inside of me that when I see that, it's so first of all, it's so powerful and it's so beautiful. Like, because it's like, that's kind of like one of those next level things in regards to human connection and intimacy, is like that human touch and two people that are, intimately connected, or they like each other, however all that is. Like, when I see them, specifically an older couple holding hands, like, it just makes me smile. But even like a younger couple, because you just don't see it. Do you see that much in our society or not?
I don't ever. I also don't see older people too often here in Denver. Denver's a much younger area.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But no, I totally get that. I mean, I have friends send me those memes,
right?
And that's when I see it the most. And I totally agree. Like, or like a guy just, or an older man, like just looking at his wife and smiling, just like with that love and that attention. But I'm also in the space of being single, being in Denver.
Yeah.
You're more aware and in tune to that, because like that's what we're looking for, right? So those things make me happy as well. But I'm also trying to be more aware of like, okay, what else lights me up besides relationships?
For sure. That's.
But no, I think that there's something about relationships and love and emotion and connection that people are having a hard time to find. And actually, I think it comes down to this word vulnerability, which you and I have both touched on a ton, but we haven't actually said. And I think it's, we're in this space of where it's harder to show our true sides, our true emotions, and get vulnerable. So I don't know. It's, to me,
why is that though? Why? I mean, because in our like, we're not that wasn't the last question, what sets your soul on fire, but why, like, I hear people all the time, especially like on social media, they're saying like, oh, I'm being vulnerable, and I'm hearing that, and I'm seeing a lot more of that. I also see how people are using that for self-promotion and to make money. So that's kind of out there, but why? Like, why is it hard for us to just say, here I am, this is me, love it, hate it, just whatever?
Because of two things. One, your self-image, and B, of getting your heart broken. One and B. So A and B.
A and B.
One and two.
No, it's good. It's good.
I mean, you've all been through heartbreak. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. And so, you're protecting yourself from going through that again. And so it's being open and vulnerable to potentially get hurt. But on the other side, you could also find that love that you see in that old couple. Right, yeah. And that goes all the way back to kind of like what we've been talking about overall, is having that self-love, having that self-awareness and appreciation, so that when you go through those type of experiences, you're not, you don't break down, or it's not like this crisis. It's like, no, you know what? I'll be okay. This was an experience. It was a great experience. Ups and downs. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to move forward and become better. You know what I mean? Yeah. So. I mean, be in it, sit in that space so you know the emotion, and then move past it. Instead of like letting that completely, destroy your being and your day. Like, let it be something that inspires you or grows you. So, yeah. All right, that's cool. We're gonna end it there, because that we could go on for a couple more hours talking about relationship stuff and all that. But Brynn, I just want to thank you very much for your vulnerability, for sharing your story, sharing some of your life lessons and insights. It's greatly appreciated. Well, thank you, Quentin. I really appreciate you having me on this podcast. So. For sure. So, Brynn, if a listener or listeners want to reach out to you, kind of follow along your journey, or are interested in connecting with you on some level, where can people find you at in regards to the internet? Love it. So you can find me on my website, BrynnFabian.com. You can find me on Facebook, Brynn Fabian, or you can find me on Instagram. I am Brynncess. Perfect. Yes. All right, cool. All right, so listeners, thank you for hanging out with Brynn and myself today on the 127 Fit podcast. As always, your time, your listening ears are greatly appreciated. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at 127 Fitness. My personal account is at QVars. Facebook is at Quentin Vars. If you guys would do me a huge favor and please leave a 5-star rating and review for the podcast, that would be awesome. Also, hit that subscribe button. If you think you'd be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance you think would be a great guest or guest for the 127 Fit podcast, just reach out to me through my email, which is
127fit@gmail.com. And as you find value in a specific guest or podcast episode, if you would do me a huge favor and share that episode or episodes on your Facebook and Instagram stories, that would be greatly appreciated. And then if you guys would please, again, as you share those episodes, use the hashtag Be Someone to Follow. That will kind of create that community that I want to create through this podcast and through 127 Fit and Fitness. So that we can just get that positive encouragement from each other. And then per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time until next time, I will catch you guys later.